Manchester United losing to Leicester, or Manchester United C team, as you put it, losing to Leicester on Tuesday night, of course, meant that the obvious, what we already knew happened, which is that Manchester City would become Premier League champions. It's the third time in 4 years under Pep Guardiola. He said it was the most difficult league title of his career. Does it feel that way to you?
Yeah, I think so. In the sense, I think the one, so not the 100 points they were walking on the league, no problem. The one when they beat Liverpool by a point, 98 points to 97, I think was tough because of the title race and because they were behind in January and that big game.
And one slip up.
Yeah, it could have cost them. But I think maybe that was more psychologically in the sense, okay, let's do what we do and try to be as efficient. This one, he had to change. He had to change so many things.
So before we get this one, I would have thought some of the ones at Barcelona when, you had that insane situation between him and Mourinho, and you had all the Clásicos in Europe, and
But those teams were still...
That is when it felt, I guess what's different is, this is very difficult, but that one I think felt more draining. Because remember, those were the times that every year he'd come out in January and be like, I'm going to leave at the end of the season, it's too much, I've too much invested. And I wonder if maybe he didn't, because he was younger then, and obviously so many books have been written about Pep Guardiola or whatever. Maybe he was younger, maybe he took it more personally because, no disrespect, but obviously his ties with Barcelona inevitably are going to feel stronger and more emotional. Maybe because of the continuous grind of the media, because let's face it, people here complain about the media, and sometimes the media here, when they get something in, when they get obsessed with something, they will go and they can become we can become a complete pain in the butt. But in general, it's not like that. In general, if you're providing results, you don't have people showing up at your door. You don't feel compelled. When he was at Barcelona, I know somebody who used to work there, and he said, the manager gets phone calls from board members, friends of board members, continuously. They call up and say, oh, why did you play him? Why did you do this? Just some advice. You're doing great. All of this is just incredibly draining.
But maybe he meant it's the hardest one because of what happened on the pitch, not so much the things around it. Because
I think it's that.
They were 8th at Christmas. They had been 14 at some point earlier. They lost to Leicester at home. It was humiliating. The defeat at Spurs was humiliating.
The injuries as well, which we've kind of forgotten about. But we went from thinking Kevin De Bruyne was the most important player in the world to the fact that all of a sudden the guy gets injured and you don't notice.
Yeah, no, exactly. But I think he also had to change his approach on, let's be not more defensive, because they had also very good defenses last season and the season before. They conceded less chances, less goals than they actually have this season. However, they're certainly more solid this season because they don't press as aggressively all the time than they used to. They don't do as much running as they used to. They certainly, when they have the ball, they control it and deal with it far better, I think, than before, where maybe they tend to try to go forward too quickly. Whereas now they're so much more in control than what they were before, and I think it's tiring for the opposition.
What I find incredible is that most people would probably say the three most important players are, and we've always said this, there's no star player, so it's hard to tell the most important ones. But this season, three most important players, most people would agree, are Ruben Dias, Gundogan, and Phil Foden, right? In terms of the season as a whole, right? You can debate one or the other.
And De Bruyne a bit.
But if we had been sitting here 12 months ago, and I said to you, Jules, say you're going to win the title. You say, yeah, sure, why not? And I told you the three most important players are going to be Ruben Dias, who's this guy who's still in Portugal, Gundogan, who is basically a squad midfielder, or was a squad midfielder last year, and Phil Foden, who's very young and not playing very much. You would have said this is not going to happen. It's not going to work out this way. I think few people would have predicted the definitive move away from the center forward, Foden's development.
Yeah.
Gundogan, who I believe is a top scorer this season.
Yeah, he is, 16 goals. So a new role,
I mean, this is remarkable. What we're seeing here is just special.
It is very special, and Ruben Dias had an incredible impact, as we said, very likely to the one Bruno Fernandes had on Manchester United or Virgil van Dijk on Liverpool. However, he's 23, had never played outside of Benfica and Portugal before. For him to come and do this is just wow.
And as you put it, he'd never been on a plane before, but of course he has been on an airplane, just to clarify. We're going to get more into City, try to celebrate a little bit, try to understand also longer term in the Gab and Juls podcast. So you can get it anywhere you get your podcasts.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.